from state to federal. But,
Mentality.
hey, but I look at it as I don't think so.
After you have
If I've been a governor of a state, right?
It's a
if I'm going for anything else, I'm going for presidency. I'm not going to go to the Senate. The only thing he's going to the Senate for is to perpetuate the same things that they have been doing.
Government is now a business. That's
It's
the only way they can make money because they don't have any
look at the caliber of
they don't
people,
have any jobs.
Look at the caliber of people that you have in the Senate itself. Now, if you take a poll, it's sad that we need to go to a developer. We need to learn from them. Many of those in the Congress in the US, many are lawyers. They have jobs. They have income outside of what, so they don't depend on government
allowances.
Yeah, they don't depend on any of that. Many of the people we have in the Senate, some of them were pushing dead cars before they got to those positions. And you want that person to now lead a change?
That's what I'm saying. The electorate has an opportunity and said,
yes,
they do.
The reality is that when you have a basket of tomatoes under the law of probability, if most of the tomatoes in the basket are rotten, the likelihood to pick a good tomatoes is less. It's the law of probability. When you have leaders who look like this, whether Nigerians believe it or not, it shows that majority of us are a little bit closer to that. You can't have leaders that are that distant from their people. Let me give you an example. Whether at the civil servant level, whether at the private sector, the sense of corruption has become a culture. And like I said to you a few days, about a week ago, I made mention that in 1975, when that coup took place, that removed the cream of the civil service that we had, Nigeria was the pride of civil service in Africa. When we demoted people who had nothing to do with the Gowon coup or the whatever coup took place, they were just working for the government that was in power. But they had a career that they were on. But you removed such people, my father inclusive, who had nothing to their names because they were nationalists. Their first interest was Nigeria. So a few of them had the opportunity of investing in insurance, investing in processes where they are growing their wealth. But many of them gave their lives for this country. After 1975, most people told themselves working for the federal government or for the government is not my father's business. It is my business, because people went home with nothing.
Yeah.
What did we do? We created a culture. Immediately, the value system of being a nationalist became minimized.
Yes.
So because we have had coups that have destroyed the fabric of our federalism, destroyed the fabric of our people now have what we call a survivor system. Who will take responsibility? There's a particular course that we teach that the role of elites in national transformation. Why is the role of elite critical? If you watch history, throughout the histories of nation building and transformation of nations from that which was not, even England, this very England that we are buying tickets and going for medical checkup and having babies. England at what time, during the Oliver Twist story, the children of England were begging on the streets. People shared one tap, 300 people shared one tap. The Thames was smelling to hell itself, stinking like everything. But the elite class, whose value system became changed, began to take responsibility. But the question is now, how did the value system change? I know a little bit about England's transformation. The elite class, certain people took responsibility. But how was that possible? Within the religious sector, a message began to change. Whether you like it or not, one bishop, Joseph Matara, did an experiment and came with a conclusion that the first thing that rules a man's house, the first rulership in a man's house, is his theology. How does he see God? If a man sees God, that God is not a God of justice, if a man sees God that there is no judgment, and he believes in faith, whatever will be, the man in the street is poor, a beggar, because God made him a beggar.
Yeah.
The next thing he said, it will affect his philosophy. What will be the philosophy? His lifestyle will say, me, I'm wealthy because God has favored me. He's not wealthy because God has not what? favored him. Then the next step, he said, your philosophy will affect your policies or your politics first. Because now you draw into your politics with a philosophy that you have. And what is that philosophy? The beggar is cursed by God. So will that man make any policy or go into politics with a favor of the poor? No. And therefore, I said also that the church, the mosque, and the far centers, peradventure, so that they'll say we are leaving some people behind, should not tell us. They should all re-examine their messages. A message that tells people that they can prosper without process is false. At any level. And therefore, in England, the England church and the people within the Methodists and co, they were not called Methodists then, but were just a movement of people saying, we cannot continue like this. God says, take care of the poor. God says, take care of the needy. And that message began to penetrate the heart that individuals like Wilberforce began to fight. Individuals like Nightingale began to fight for medical care. Men rose up within the system. But there was a message. The same message went into the school. The same messages went into families. People began to look, this hunger, you're not tired of it. Oh, we're tired of it. Maybe there's something we can do. There was a consciousness. That consciousness has not been aroused enough. It's happening in little blocks and centers, but it has not been aroused. And I believe a media house like Channels and many beautiful houses, we have the responsibility to begin to bring out a message. Because one of the power of the media house is he that controls the media actually controls the minds of people.
Exactly.
And so what we are doing here Saturday and what Channels is doing is laudable, but we need to take it a notch higher. We need to begin to design programs that is deliberate, whether it's on the radio, translated in various languages, to begin to confront the Nigerian mind. Because there's something cynical that has happened in Nigeria that people are not aware of. But because I've been lecturing in the last 10 years on transformation, every time students come in the class, the first point of call is people believe that this nation cannot transform. Either they have to be one massive God intervention alone, or everybody's looking for just God alone to do it, or one revolution of blood. But again, nations have also changed systematically. But the elite class, like the Barrister Chimas of this world, my brother Edikin, Auntie Alera, myself, and Nyota is saying, and every one of us, because we recently found out a test. There's one rich list test that you do to know whether you're an elite or you're not. And we found out that most of us, in our low level of thinking that we're nobody, in that research, they say you are part of the people that must take responsibility.
Yes.
And so I indict the elite class for where Nigeria is. I indict the elite class for this madness that's on our highway, people who get contracts and don't do them. And the Chimes of this world who are barristers that must help us with the legal framework. Because again, the issue of what we're talking Senate is the House of Assembly. What are the laws of Nigeria? Look, our 99th Constitution needs to be re-examined. There's something in our fabric, so we need to start the conversation.
But again, I was going to, you said it's the assembly, the state assemblies. That's where the laws that get to the local government are critically made. For instance, I was reading, I think, is it the fourth schedule? I'm not sure, of the Constitution, where it says the local governments are supposed to handle roads, some kind of roads, markets, all the taxes within, but that's not happening anymore. The laws are there, but nobody's following through on that.
States have grafted that particular provision, appropriated them to themselves.
So what do we do?
Because they collect the money for the
Yes, the whole focus is on money. And just talking generally, like she tried to paint, if you have greed, after all, what is greed? Greed is a situation of insatiety. You are never satisfied with anything. And it draws from a psychological fact of fear.
Yeah.
The fear of poverty is the beginning of greed. Because you don't want to go back to where you came from. Because in the beginning, everybody was poor. Before men started exploring and exploiting nature, we were all poor. And in what situation, everybody was poor. So if you now become a little rich, you want to exploit others, in order to remain rich,
exactly.
so that you don't come down.
Exactly.
But the risk in the Nigerian greed is that it is mixed with a grotesque level of ignorance.
Yes.
Those people who have made money, either by whatever means, are not knowledgeable. I'm not saying not going to school or don't have certificate.
No, that's right.
I'm talking about knowledge.
That's different.
The Socratic injunction is man know thyself. The unexamined life is not worth living. You need to educate yourself, not by the certification process.
That's right.
Inform yourself. Cultivate your mind. That's why people who want to deceive go to your mind, because the mind has might over matter. The material body is just like ordinary clay. The mind moves it. If the mind says, Alero, run, you will be running, and people will say, Alero, wait now, you will be running. Because you have told your legs, help me, and they start moving. So the mind has might. So when they communicate and begin to hold you down, do this, these things that will ingratiate them. But the solution, like I have always believed, is that we will get to a point where everybody will be tired. Both the leadership and the led will come to a state of equilibrium. No going up, no going down. And everybody will say, we all die here. Then somebody will say, okay, let's see how we... After all, what is the principle behind egalitarianism? Egalitarianism is about that you have exploited a system, exactly. And your mind tells you that I cannot continue to do this, there will be an implosion. Yes. So I begin to pay back to society. Now, when you have such people in a particular number, and you have out of them begin to think, because we don't have thinkers in government, and we don't have thinkers in our governance, and that is what is lacking. If we have thinkers, they will know that the best way to keep yourself is to be sure that your neighbor is happy and safe.
Okay. We have to get down to it. We have 3 minutes to end.
Let me ask this question. And please answer me just hit the nail on the head. Next week's election, how do you see it? A repeat of what happened last week?
I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. What I would like to see is people actually turn out again.
Do you think people are going to turn out? Because some have been put off by what happened last week.
I certainly am not. Maybe because I didn't experience it in my side, but I'm not. I'm going out again up to the counting.
You are going to vote?
So, going to vote.
Okay, Chima, you're going to vote?
I'll talk generally. If a child cried in the morning, he can also cry in the evening if the same thing that causes the cry remains there. Let me just put it at that.
No, you need to break it down.
What am I saying?
Because we have to encourage
very well. If INEC does not put its act together, because this particular one is a localized election, but I can tell you that the law enforcement agencies may not likely be as desperate in protecting some warlords as they did at the presidential.
Yes. I guess
so it is likely that everybody is on his own. If you decide to set somebody to kill, maybe you will be caught because there will be no umbrella protection. So it is a notice to those godfathers that they should play by the rule, or at least pretend to be doing so. The ordinary voters should not be tired, even if you are not intelligent, or you are intelligent, you don't have somebody to pay your school fees, take the exam and leave the responsibility to those who would have paid for your school fees. If you get my drift.
Yes, definitely. Juliet.
I mean, it would have been easier for me. I mean, I had already made up my mind last year that I was going to vote for Ambody. But when this saga started, I told myself, Juliet, I don't know, even sitting down here, the next week election, I'm coming out. And I'm encouraging all my friends to do the same. Yep. All my fellow, both Christians and Muslims, otherwise come out. We still have to push the process forward. So I've not decided who I'm going to vote for, but I'm still looking.
We don't even want to know.
Yes, I don't really know. So, but Saturday, let's go out. You can decide.
What is it going to be, as Mr. Nnaji said, leave the
Leave the rest.
Leave the rest to the examiners to mark or not to mark.
At this rate, we need to leave the rest to the examiner because we still have to write our exam.
Aleo, before you came,
society. Civic
before you came, Aleo told of her neighbors that were there till 1:30 or a.m.
Some left at 1:30 when the presidential...
They were waiting for the votes to be counted.
I waited for
and they finished counting the presidential at 1:15 a.m. So some people stayed on. No. Okay. Some people stayed on for the National Assembly to be counted. So they probably were there till about 3.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of work. And we just have to do it.
Edeki, there are a lot of new faces on the ballot papers. Is this a good thing? Or do you think, okay, for presidential, for instance, I mean, there were so many people, some people hadn't even heard about. Do you think INEC should do something about it to reduce the number of parties on the ballot paper?
It's a law. If you want it to be fair, right, you have to open the door for everybody to come in. The thing is that people are not willing to come together. And when you don't have any ideology driving a particular party, how do you then come together? Everybody believes that he has a way forward. And until we come together, right, and self-regulate, must come together, and then the parties will reduce. When we started this project in 1970, when we went back in 1979 or so, there were 5 noticeable parties, GNPP, NPP, and so on and so on, 5 noticeable parties.
At that point, we'll just take a quick break and come back to tidy up this conversation about the voting next week, Saturday. Don't go away. Welcome back. So we have this mail. Dennis Nwabuisi says, we need a very good mindset change in this country. We need to hold the leaders accountable. Education and poverty sadly would have been a tool to checkmate these leaders, but they have systematically used that tool against the masses. That's from Dennis. He didn't say where he's writing from. So, Mr. Nnaji, in rounding off about the election on Saturday, how can the electorate indeed hold the leaders accountable by their vote?
I don't know about this coming election, but let us hope that because the umbrella protection that I spoke about may not be available across the land for those who want to do evil for their local interest, it probably might try to curtail some excesses of impunity. Talking about holding leaders accountable, it's a very wide project in which education that is not necessarily even projected on election or not, general education, liberating your mind so that if somebody gives you 2,000 naira to go and vote, you take the 2,000 naira, no receipt. You still go and do it because if you refuse, you could be held back at that point or killed or maimed or prevented from voting. Collect the money and tell the person, I'll vote. Don't say I'll vote for you. I'll vote. You go and vote and come out. If they say show it, don't show it and drop the thing there. If they want to collect the 2,000 naira from you, ask what you sold to, what they sold to you that they want to know what was the transaction. I'm not encouraging people to even get involved in that. But if you find yourself in such a terrible situation, and it does happen in the very local areas, I've run an election, you understand, where you are surrounded by 4 hefty men that can put you in a bag and you disappear from the surface of this earth. You must find an intelligent way to maneuver yourself out because they are not going to follow you to the polling booth and put your hand. So in the final analysis, what I'm saying is that this coming election will not be the do it all, have it all. We can start from this one by saying we resist every attempt to be cowed. We resist every attempt to be intimidated. We will come in our numbers to vote our conscience. Don't collect money, vote your conscience. But even if they come and carry the ballot box in your face, in your presence, don't struggle for it. You have done your own job. Once you satisfy your conscience,
the examiner.
Leave the rest for the examiner.
Imoukhuede, in 30 seconds.
I will speak pidgin. I beg una. Make una vote una mind. the person where you trust, you look and say, this man, if let's say if he do something, vote for that person. You hear what the man talk just now? Even if they give you money, if they put knife for your neck, they're not going to there when you vote you. When you vote. So do what you think say go better for you.
Okay. Mrs. Benitie,
we mourn with everyone who lost their lives, their families. I mean, the families that lost their lives in the last election. Our prayers that this election, lives will not be lost. Amen. And that God would have mercy that some people, they say, spirit of sameness will descend. But go out and vote. And to the political parties, those who need to negotiate, renegotiate themselves, because there are like over 40 of them. And I think they should create alliances this week to make things easier and tell their followers, this is the way we are going. Because I don't think everybody cannot be governor. And if the line is too long, the lower your votes will be. But negotiate something. Maybe you can negotiate a commissioner position for somebody you want to support. But do what you think is right. And let the examiner, INEC, have mercy on us this time. And do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Juliet Benitie, Head of Programs at the Institute for National Transformation, Chima Nnaji, Legal Practitioner, and Edeki Imoukhuede, Social Commentator. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please join us again.